I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Ha Rekah Kodash. Double honors unto our apostle elders which rule great millstone well and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom wa abababal. So I had a strange event happen today, and it was spiritual because the name of the man and who he was and what he was asking for. So I was raking my yard, and a man, I could tell his vehicle was from out of place because he parked not like a local person would. So he was in a business establishment, which he came out eventually and began to ask for money. And he asked for $50, but he couldn't speak English. He was using Google Translate. And his name was Uriel. All right, he was a Russian, and he couldn't even speak English, and he was pretty much asking for money. And he came in a humble spirit. You know, he was asking for forgiveness and things like that. You know, like I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you. But otherwise than that, he really didn't speak no English, or he didn't speak it with us. But he was using Google Translate. But his name being Uriel, which Uriel was the angel that visited Ezra in Babylon and gave him the vision of the last days. All right, and Uriel, God is my light, or flame of Yahweh, which is our God, our power, and he's going to save us by Yahweh Shai. But it showed that we were the light of the world right now, because he went to these Edomites in their business establishment, and he was begging them for money. And he had money, he just couldn't access it because it was digital. All right, and he was needing cash money to get gas so he could continue his trip. All right, because we're like in the middle of nowhere. So he stopped, and he happened to see us, and he asked us, and he received what he needed. And you know, he was able to send it back, even with an increase, being that he's a heathen. But he got going on the road. But his name being Uriel, and then the other part was that he asked for $50. Let me show you what that means in the Bible. All right, it says in the Bible, the number 50 symbolizes completion, liberation, and celebration, most prominently seen in the year of Jubilee and Pentecost. When the Pentecost was when we got the Holy Spirit, starting with the apostles that Yahweh Shai sent out. And the year of Jubilee is the year of release, which we are in the year of release because I had a crop last year. It didn't come in. I had fruit on a bush that did not sprout. All right, and that happens because of the year of Jubilee. All right, so we're in that, and even Esau telling you that we're in the pretty much in the 250th year of America. All right, being that last of the 250th year. All right, so soon we're gonna be liberated, and we're gonna be celebrating our salvation in Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai when all this is done and said and completed. And it's going to happen when these Russians, that's why I said who he was, because he was literally fresh off the boat Russian. All right. It tells you that these Russians are going to be the ones to shoot missiles on this place. It says in Isaiah 13, verse 17, behold, I will stir up the Medes, which are the Russians, against them, against the Americans, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. And it's because they're going digital. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, which they're going to shoot nuclear missiles on this place. and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, which is America, the glory of kingdoms, which everybody wants to come here, the beauty of the Chaldees, it was created in witchcraft, excellency, the Chaldees' excellency, this is why this is Babylon, shall be as when Yahweh, sending his son Yahushai back, overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, which Russia and the BRIC nations, the NATO nations, the UN nations are going to shoot nuclear missiles on Babylon. All right. And I noticed I was, you pick up details, I know I do. I'm not trying to boast myself, but just, I see details. I pick up details on certain things. And I noticed his ear was the jujitsu ear. Right, or the judo ear, they get those ears that are swollen from rubbing against the mat. The cartilage gets damaged, and their ears swell up. Well, he didn't have a real bad one, but you can see he's trained, and he was a fighting age, and he had a beard like the Muslims do, right? When they wear they cut the lip hair, they trim it down, which they'll bald the top lip, and then they'll keep the beard. All right, so he was a young man. He looked to be like an Islamic Russian. All right, that knew a deadly martial art such as judo or jujitsu. All right, and it made me think of this, by the Spirit, that this is a sign to us. This is the last days. All right, and the Lord's literally gathering the nations. All right, here in America, and there's going to be ambushes and war and blood in the streets, okay, because we're at the end of the age of the so-called white race, the Edomite. That's another thing. Let me get that. Life of Empires. Let's see. So it says the idea that empires last about 250 years come from Sir John Glubb's 1977 essay, which you could also look into the predictions of Sir Isaac Newton. It says in the 1977 essay of Sir John Glubb's The Fate of Empires, which suggested a cycle of conquest, expansion, and collapse around this time frame. So when they do the research of history, empires last only 250 years. Their whole entire existence, from conquest, expansion, and then collapse, which we're in the 250th year of America's existence. All right. Though the Edomites been coming over before that and tormenting the Israelites, America, the actual empire, all right, the United States of America, from what was it, 1776 till 2025, all right, it's 250 years. Okay, so I just wanted to share that because I believe that was a spiritual event. That this Russian, fresh off the boat Russian, trained military age man driving, right? And then he, out of all the places, he comes to my property, which we're in the middle of nowhere. And, us being that I know the truth. Why are there Russians that can't speak English driving trucks in America? Because they're going to go to war with America. All right. It says in 2 Ezra 15, verse, let me see. It says in verse 14, 2nd Ezra 15, verse 14, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. But you're going to have literal war in the streets of America. And there was already tension, because the American Edomite that was in these establishments didn't want to help the guy. And he was in there trying to get help, and they all rejected him. He said the bank rejected him, and all these places rejected him because he was a Russian speaking Russian, all right, and not any fluent in English, all right. But the thing was, one of the things was that he translated through the Google. He said, "Are you Mexican?" And we agreed, and he said, "You're the nicest people in America," which the same thing is said about the so-called Negroes and the so-called Native American Indians, because we are the biblical Hebrew Israelites. All right? It says, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition, which Trump is calling for the death of those that cause sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, because it will be locked down, martial law. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Which it tells you in Zechariah 14, verse 1, behold, the day of Yahweh cometh, and thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee. All right, let's get that in the NLT. It says, watch, for the day of Yahweh is coming, when your possessions will be plundered right in front of you. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem, against the Israelites, to battle, and the city shall be taken. Which you're going to have these troops take over the cities. And the house is rifled. They're going to go into the homes and destroy the homes. And the women ravished, which when you go into that in the NLT, it says, I will gather all nations, like Russians, Chinese, Iranians, Japanese, Africans, right? Europeans. It says to South Americans to fight against Jerusalem, which it's talking about the Israelites. The city will be taken, the houses looted, and the women raped. Half the population will be taken into captivity, into FEMA camps, and the rest will be left among the ruins of the city. All right, it says in verse 3, I'm going back to the KJV, then shall Yahweh go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. Now let's try it. NLT. Then Yahweh will go out to fight against those nations as he fought in the past times, which we could read about the judgment of the Lord on these heathen. For the Israelites' sake, he ransomed us. Remember what he did to Pharaoh in Egypt. Now let's go to Revelation 14 and 12. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongues shall consume away in their mouth. All right? So nuclear destruction. And you got men having visions of nuclear destruction. All right? I've seen brothers, I did videos on it myself. Let me see.
Shalom to the 144,000 and the rest of your elect out there. Shalom to you all. We're really close. We're really, really close. All these prophecies are coming together, coming to pass. Very fast, very quickly, extremely quick. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this video, To Destroy the Whole Land. That's from Isaiah chapter 13. Man has a dream of missiles hitting America. So this is premiere put up by GMS Inquirer early 2. Nuclear missiles will take this place. Nuclear missiles will make this place a desolate wilderness. So here we go. Not going to be long on this.
Hi people. So today is Tuesday, November 18th.
What you could go and see this video on what is the 666 Mark II GMS Truth, which is the head apostle Tahar's page that rules Great Millstone well, and which taught us the truth. All right. And he shares it, and all the other brothers share it. And I've did a sit down on it myself about this man having his brother having a dream, and then him watching the movie of A House of Dynamite, which that's a heavy movie. It shows you that they have no power. All right. They're helpless against the Lord and what he's done by giving them that great sword. All right. The nuclear missile, which is going to be used against them that created it, that made it. You shall reap what you sow. Yahweh is not mocked. And he's sending Yahweh Shai, right? And he's going to not meet Esau as a man, but as a God. All right? So, I thought I'd just share that with you, being in the spirit that this is the end of the wicked and their wicked kingdom. Shalom to the elect wa abababal.